Hello and welcome to this video about debugging dynamic server pages on webMethods integration server using the built-in service pub.flow tracePipeline. So what are we talking about today? webMethods integration server comes with a built-in web server that allows you to run any service and display the data returned from that service on a web page. These are called dynamic server pages, or DSPs for short. And you have all seen them when using the admin UI. But you can also run your own custom pages. In essence, they are an extension to HTML with additional tags to invoke services, creates part of the page based on conditions, and display values returned from the service. For more information what you can do, please have a look at the Dynamic Server Pages and Output Templates Developer's Guide. For easy access, I have put the URL into the video description below. As an outlook to another video, I also want to point out that you can include things like Angular, Bootstrap, jQuery, etc. with DSPs. Now, if you're doing serious development work, sooner or later something will not work as intended and you need to find out why. In other words, you need a way to debug your code. For the browser side in general, there's a lot of information out there, so today I will focus on the server side. This primarily means finding out which data are currently present at runtime, has an error occurred in the background and I somehow don't get any data, and what is my scope? If I'm inside a loop, I need to access data differently than outside of it. The demo will be about my preferred approach to debugging data. I will show you a demo package that includes a custom DSP and service that outputs some demo data. Then initially that DSP will contain a common error, at least common for me, when it comes to displaying data. And then you will see how I typically debug such an issue. So let's get started. I am now on my demo system, and the first step is to download and install the demo package that I mentioned before. The links to the GitHub project and the download of the package zip file are available in the video description below. When I get the demo package, I will download it directly into the correct directory for installing it, which is Integration Server Home Replicate Inbound. Once that is done, I change over to the Integration Server Web UI and install the package like this. After that, I go back to the Package Management Overview, and now I can go to the Demo DSP by clicking the homepage symbol next to the package name. But before we look at the DSPs in detail, let me quickly show you the data structure that we will be using for this demo. For this, I will go over to Designer, refresh the package list, and run the service. And this is the data we are talking about. When necessary, I will come back to this later, but feel free to make a screenshot if you want to look at it in parallel. Spoiler alert, the intentional error is not too difficult to spot, but the principle shown later is the same for much more complex data structures, and then it is far from obvious. Anyway, back to the DSP. The first example is the base version, which simply shows most of the values from the service. The one field that is omitted so far is the success field for each person. It is also the field which we will later be using for our debugging exercise. So everything is fine with the first example. We can therefore go back and have a look at the second one. As the description on the overview page implies, it contains an if-var tag that is not working as expected. Let's see. What we would now expect to see, from the data we have on the screen is a plus sign after all persons but the second. If we switch over to the source code and have a look at line 17, this looks okay. But perhaps some of you have spotted the issue. In real life, however, when you are under stress, this is not so easy. Now let's rearrange the screen a little bit so that we can look at the browser output and the source code at the same time. We can now see that we need to adjust our expectations, because the last person has a different status. OK looks nice in principle, certainly better than failed, but of course it is different from done. But we still have the first and the third person where we would expect the plus sign. We are now closing in on our mistake with example 3. When I open the page, the result in the browser is still the same, but we now also see some output in the server log file. Let's have a look. And if we check the value of the success field, it becomes clear that we have used the wrong value in our if-while statement. Instead of done, we need to check for true. But before we correct our mistake, let me show you how to get the DSP to display the available data into the server log file. When we look into the respective file, the example3.dsp, we can see that the magic lies in lines 11 and 12. I simply added another service invocation, in this case to dump everything into the server log file by calling pub.flow tracePipeline. Of course, you can use any service to help you. And for more complex situations, it can even make sense to write a helper service individually that contains special logic to check certain values and output the result via pub.flow debug log. If you have specific scenarios that you want me to cover, please get in touch. Back to our example. Since we now know that we simply chose the wrong value, we can easily fix this. And when we look into the source code for the example4.dsp, you can see that in line 20 the check is now performed against true and not done anymore. With that change, things should finally be working. So let's check. And here we go, and things are looking good. Let me close with some final thoughts. I'm fully aware that the example is trivial and data structures as well as DSP pages are far more complex in real projects. Nevertheless, the principles are exactly the same. In many cases, the changes that need to be done are also very small, like in our example. In our case, we also could have found the error by looking at the output of the service invocation directly in Designer. And in fact, when this is possible, it is of course the approach I would recommend. But there are many situations when that would require the development of additional services, and the approach shown here is simpler. Just use your own judgment. That's it for today. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you don't want to miss future episodes about web methods, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.